In the last installment of my KSP2 exploration mode playthrough, I went to deep space for the first time, but got no science because of a bug. But by the time the video released, the bug was patched out, so I'm going to begin this episode going back to interplanetary space to get the science points that I should have got, and what you'd have got if you're playing along, last mission. And, oh, with the vessel splashed down and recovered, we now have 377 science points. We can unlock another node on the tech tree. I decided to pick precision aerodynamics just because, I don't know, just seemed like a good idea. And that's it, yes, anyway, play the intro. I don't really know what that was. I didn't know what to say, and then I said I had an intro, and I didn't have an intro, so I did that. Anyway, here we are at the Kerbin Space Center. Let's go to mission control and see what our objectives are. So I already selected this mission in the previous episode, but basically we have this mission available to us. Mission control has picked up a mysterious signal that seems to be originating from a fixed point on the Mun's surface. We need you to investigate. That's all we know. We can actually go to the tracking station, and by tracking that mission, it's actually put a little marker on the Mun to show us where to go. You can sort of see that yellow bullseye there. So it's a pretty easy place to reach. It's not that far off the Mun equator, but we need to build a rocket that can get there. Now, I've already done a video in which we go to the Mun. So if you've not been to the Mun before, don't make this your first mission, because this is going to be much harder than just doing a generic landing, because we've got to land at a very specific point, basically, which does take a little bit more skill than just a normal Mun landing. But if you're here, it means you've already done that, so let's get building the rocket. Now, we could, if I wanted to, use the rocket that I took to the Mun for our first Mun landing mission, but I'm not going to for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because, where's the fun in that? We want to build another rocket. But also, this thing only really just had enough Delta V to do the Mun landing, which, it's fine. But we're landing at a very specific location on the Mun this time, and generally that takes a little bit more fuel, because you've got to do a few more adjustments during your descent, and it is more difficult. You've got to make probably a few more errors than you would have done just landing anywhere. So it'd be nice to have a bit more wiggle room when it comes to our Delta V. So I'm going to clear the workspace and build a new rocket. So we're going to start off with the command pod we always use up until now. We will use another one eventually, but for now this one is fine. And then just go through the motions of adding the parachute, and then the heat shield underneath, small decoupler followed by the Science Junior. Then we're going to add an FLT 400 fuel tank underneath and another small tank underneath. What one's that? The FLT 200. Then it's important we add 4 solar panels each side of the rocket, so it's always got something exposed to the sun, provided you're not on the dark side of the moon or Kerbin, obviously. Then some batteries just for good measure. Finally, we're going to add a Terrier engine, and of course, very important, we add some landing legs as well. And it's probably good practice to just right-click the landing legs, click leg extended, making sure that the legs definitely go below the engine bell. And they do, so we can retract them. Next thing is to add a decoupler. So there we are, got the small decoupler there. Then we're going to add an FLT 800 fuel tank. And we're going to add a Terrier engine. This is going to serve as our, deep space maneuver craft. Next thing we're going to add is another small decoupler, but this time we're going to add 3 FLT 800 fuel tanks. 1, 2, 3, followed by the swivel engine. There we are. The swivel engine is important to use this one, not the Reliant, because although it's not as powerful as the Reliant, it does have engine gimbal, as in the engine can, point to steer. It can be used to steer the rocket, basically. Then we're going to add some radial decouplers. We're going to add 2 either side like this, and then we're going to once again add 3 FLT 800 fuel tanks. You can actually hold down Alt and then click, and that will clone the part like that. 3 like so, and then at the bottom now we can add the Reliant engine. We only need 1 swivel engine in the center, and then we can strut these things there like that. And then we can add some nose cones. I've actually got better nose cones than we had available to us when I built my first Mun rocket, so we can add these pointy ones for better aerodynamics, and that's looking pretty good so far. One final thing we need to add is engines. I'm going to find the Sepratron 1. I'm going to stick it on like that in 2-way symmetry, then same thing again on the other side. The nozzle is pointing towards the central core, so that when these side boosters detach, these engines fire, and really make sure that the boosters are being pushed away from the central rocket. Now, I know I said that I was going to build a different rocket to what we used to land on the Mun the first time, but so far, this is exactly the same right. But now, things are going to get a little bit different. First things though, is I'm going to sort out my staging. So, We want our 3 engines there, all in the same stage at the bottom. And then we're going to split up these separatrons so that they're firing at the right moments. We're going to put them in the same group as the decouplers. There we go. There we are. Great. So that's staging's all done. Now I'm going to hold down Alt, click on one of the decouplers. And that's going to clone it. And we're going to place it like so. Is that right? Yep. And they look about the same level, don't they? We can actually use the blueprint view to make sure that they're all the same level. I think that's close enough. I'm happy with that. Now, you might be wondering, why did I do that? In fact, before I forget, let's quickly re-add the struts because it looks like they've disappeared. Now, why did we do it this way rather than, say, placing the boosters in 4-way symmetry like this from the get-go? The reason for this is because now these are separate stages. They've been made into separate stages automatically. And actually, let's just sort out the separatrons there. So now these boosters will detach first, then these boosters will detach. The engines, the staging seems to be a bit messed up from this little maneuver though, so let's just change that. There we are. Now we're going to do a thing called asparagus staging. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a fuel line piece, make sure you're in 2-way symmetry. There we go. Connect it from these boosters, because these are the boosters that detach first. Connect it to these boosters like so. Then get another fuel line, run it from these boosters to the center. And this is actually the most efficient way to do side boosters on a rocket. So what's going to happen is when all these engines fire at once, all of the engines in the first stage are going to just be pulling fuel from these 2 boosters here, using these fuel lines to transfer it all across, such that when these boosters detach in that stage there, the rocket will still be full of fuel. It will only be pulled fuel from these boosters. Then when it's just the 3 central cores remaining, they're only going to pull fuel again from the 2 side boosters, so that when the 2 side boosters detach, the central core is still fully fueled. This is by far the most efficient way of doing things. The only reason that this has never been done in real life is because it's too complicated. You know, the original plan for Falcon Heavy, in fact, was to have fuel transfer like this, but it was just deemed too complicated. Anyway, we're going to finish things up by adding some launch clamps like so, and like so. Boom. And you can see I've actually moved the rocket kind of close to the ground to make it a bit more realistic. And then we're going to put all the launch clamps in one stage and then make it the second stage of the rocket. So I'm putting them in a different stage to the engines, because when the engines fire, they're not immediately at max throttle. So do the engines first and then stage the clamps, so that when the clamps release the rocket, it goes straight up. It doesn't sort of fall down a little bit first and then start rising. But that, I think, is pretty much the rocket. Of course, we haven't done the most important thing, which is painting it. So let's quickly do that now. Although, as you can see, I'm just doing this in time lapse. And then with our awesome color scheme complete, we can choose a Kerbal. I always bring Bill. Let's bring someone else. Let's bring Tim C. Kerman with us. And then we can press save. And then get ready to launch. So we're going to initiate the countdown by pressing space. Our Kerbal is counting us down. Let's have a look at where the 90-degree vector is on the nav ball, by the way. That's there because it's to the right of the center. That means we need to press the D key to steer towards our gravity turn. So here we go. Engines are fired at stage to release the launch clamps, and off we go. I'm not touching anything on the keyboard just yet. We're just going to wait until we're about 300 to 500 meters above the surface before we initiate our gravity turn, which will be this way, east, because that's the direction that Kerbin rotates. So now we're about after the 300 meter mark. I'm going to start tapping the D key like so, and as you can see, the center of the nav ball is starting to move towards that 90-degree number. We want to be pointing about 45 degrees by the time we hit 10 kilometers. We also need to keep an eye on our fuel gauge here. Once these, the kind of top ones that are draining really quickly, empty, that's when we need to stage. So here we go. Just keeping a close eye on everything. When you reach 45 kilometers, it's not like a 45 degrees, sorry, it's not a hard and fast rule that you need to be hitting 45 degrees dead on 10 kilometers. That's just kind of the ballpark you want to aim for. When it comes to if it's better to be early or late, later is better. Oh, here we go. Ready? There we are. Stage. And those separatrons push our boosters away beautifully. Now what we could do actually is hold down the E key so that our side boosters are no longer above and below the central core. Because, if they're above and below when they stage, that means there's an increased risk that they'll sort of fall in and hit the central core, which we really don't want. As you can see, this maneuver is kind of easier said than done. I had to use quite a few of the different buttons on the keyboard, not just E, to kind of keep myself on a straight course. Try and keep it so you pointing roughly prograde whilst you're doing this maneuver. It's a completely not necessary thing to do, but it is kind of good practice. Now, obviously, we're burning a different direction. We're no longer going to the right on the nav wall. We're going up. So now the S key is going to be what's moving me towards the horizontal plane. I'm kind of keeping this kind of aggressive angle whilst we're still fairly low in the atmosphere. We don't want to be pointing more aggressive than 30 degrees at this stage in our flight. The atmosphere, although we're quite high on the gauge here, it is still quite dense. We don't want to be pointing too flat right now because then we're going to start seeing, flames hitting the sides of the rocket. Not good, basically. I'm keeping an eye on my time to apoapsis. Obviously, our apoapsis is the highest point of our flight. Once this gets to about a minute, then we can start really pointing more towards our prograde marker, which is this green sort of crosshair thing here. But right now, I'm pretty comfortable holding a 30-degree angle of attack, which is marked on the nav wall here. So, as you can see, our side boosters are draining much slower this time because now there's only 3 engines draining these side tanks, not 5 engines. So, here we are. We're about to get to a stage event. Let's watch the flame out. There we go. Now we can stage. Beautiful. And where's our time to apoapsis? Oh, I completely missed that. We're now way beyond the 1 minute mark. So let's just point immediately prograde now to minimize the amount of drag that we're inducing on the rocket. Obviously, the rocket now is much more slender than before, so it's got a better aerodynamic profile as well. And in fact, actually, look, our apoapsis is nearly in space. So let's just point flat at this point. Focus all of our efforts on acceleration, bringing ourselves to orbital velocity, which is about 2.3 kilometers per second. So there we are. So the border between space and the atmosphere in Kerbal Space Program is 70 kilometers. So we're nearly there anyway. And we've got loads of delta V left in this stage. This stage with the first Mun rocket I built couldn't get us to a stable orbit. But this time, it's going to get us all the way to a stable orbit and then put us on a trajectory to the Mun. So we've got all of this rocket here just to do our Mun circularization and our Mun landing. So yeah, it's way too much fuel. This is definitely an over-engineered rocket, but I kind of designed it for the beginner in mind, or I guess maybe someone who's trying to improve their skills. So I guess a beginner. So it's got a bit more fuel. It's got a lot more fuel than you need just to account for any kind of errors, or you want to try and readjust things as you go. Now for our apoapsis, I'm aiming for 100 kilometers. Just that seems like a nice round number and gives us plenty of time to perform our circularization. So there we are, 100 kilometers. Now we may as well quick save and put ourselves into 3 times time warp. Well, 4 times time warp even. It's the third arrow though, until we reach space, which we are now in. And if we undo time warp, we can see we have a lot more time warp levels available to us. Before we do that though, let's plot our maneuver node. So just before our Kerbin apoapsis, we'll create a maneuver plan. Click on the center to bring up our nodes. Drag on prograde. Oh, there we are. And at the point at which periapsis and apoapsis flip, that's when you're about circular. So let's see, 101, 99. You know what? I think that's good enough for me. Then we can press the maneuver node marker on the SAS control panel. As you can see, this is a really big, heavy rocket, so it turns very, very slowly, but that's fine because we've got a whole 3 minutes and 20 seconds until we get to this maneuver, so, plenty of time. Actually, we can sort of cheat a little bit. Once we're locked on to the maneuver, obviously this thing has inertia, so when we get to the maneuver point on the nav ball, there's a chance we'll end up sort of going past it a little bit, and then we'll have to readjust, but what we can do is we can just kill all of our movement with time warp. So, I'd say that looks pretty good. Let's press there, time warp to maneuver now, and that just locks the rocket in place. So it's going to drop out 30 seconds to the maneuver node. If you want, you can wait. I'm a bit impatient, so I'm going to manually time warp now. And here we go. Perfect. And then we're just going to open the map screen by pressing M and watch our orbital line rise up into a stable circular orbit. Ready, 3, 2, 1. Yep, and at the point they swap, that's when you want to kill your velocity. Then we can delete that maneuver. Just make sure 99, 101. Beautiful. Next thing we're going to do is zoom out and locate the Mun. There it is. Right click it, press set as target. About, 90 degrees away from it. That's where you're going to be aiming towards. So let's create a maneuver plan. Drag on prograde and just drag it out until we get to the height of the Mun's orbit. Nearly there. Let's just click on the center and move it until we have our Mun encounter. There it is. The reason why the line stops is because we're currently on a Mun collision course, which is technically what we want because we don't want this stage to be left in space, but I'll get to this in a second. Let's just get our Mun encounter first of all. So I think that That looks pretty good there. Now, if I right-click on the Mun and press focus, we can see a bit more clearly. Where's our maneuver plan? We're going to make it so we're going to be hitting the surface of the Mun. Wait for it. There we go. This is because we have 944 meters per second in this stage, and this burn is going to require 853. Whilst I'm doing this explanation, let's just get ourselves pointing towards the maneuver plan's vector on the nav ball, because again, this thing turns very, very slowly. But, you know, it's good practice to not leave spent stages floating around in space, contributing to Kessler syndrome and space junk and all that shebang. So what we're going to do, we're going to put ourselves on a Mun collision course. Then, once we're on the impact course, we'll stage so that this booster here will crash into the surface of the Mun, not get left in space. And then obviously once we've staged, we'll need to do a quick adjustment to make sure that this upper stage with Timsy, Kerbin and the Science Junior doesn't meet a similar fate. So here we are, we're nearly pointing along that maneuver plan vector. Again, as soon as we're kind of pointing that way, we can kill our speed, we can kill the rotation by just initiating time warp. So wait for it. That's pretty good there. There we go, time warp, and we'll just wait until the point at which we reach our maneuver. Again, time warp, auto time warp drops us out a bit soon, so I'm going to use manual time warp for the last bit. And there we are, let's initiate the burn. Perfect. And that looks so beautiful there. I really love the graphics of KSP 2. It's one of the big improvements that this game has over the first one. Now, it's taking a while. We can actually speed the burn up a little bit by going to 4 times time warp. I don't like going too fast with the time warp because it can be a bit finicky sometimes when you want to drop out, because we can't kill the burn when we're in time warp. We need to be in 1 times time warp. So no time warp basically. And there's a bit of a delay between when you change the time warp level. So let's get ready. Go to the now. Oh, I've pressed X to just kill our speed so we can actually watch the last bit of our burn. I'm going to press shift just to do a little bit of throttle. So 15%. Just watching that last part of the burn take place. There we are. We are on a collision course. So we can press F5 to do a quick save. Then we can stage. Perfect. We'll time warp to let the 2 ships kind of separate a little bit. Now we're going to point. We were burning prograde to get onto the Mun collision course. So we're going to point retrograde. We're also going to just activate that engine. There we go. We're going to point retrograde. And then open the nav ball. No, open the map screen. And do a small burn. And we can watch our orbit come back. Let's aim for a periapsis of 30 kilometers. Seems like a nice round number. There we go. And then we can go about going to the moon, I guess. So let's just time warp to point here. There we are. Then we should do some manual time warping. So, we are now in the Mun's sphere of influence. So, we go back to the map screen. What we did the first time we went to the Mun was we created a maneuver plan and, you know, just circularize basically. But remember, we need to be landing at this site here, which is not exactly along the equator. So, this isn't actually the most efficient way of doing this, by the way, but I think it's the easiest for beginners. So, what we're going to do is make a maneuver plan and make it so we're just capturing. Oh, wait for it, like so, because what we want to be doing is doing like a plane change like this, but it's very expensive to do this in low orbit, but it's very cheap to do this in high orbit. So let's just delete that and do that again. So what we're going to do is going to make a maneuver plan to get us like here. Then we'll make another maneuver plan at apoapsis and perform our plane change there and make it so that our orbit is at least passing over somewhere near that yellow circle. We can kind of check by using retrograde. Yep, we're definitely going to pass over it like that. Again, this isn't the most efficient way of doing this sort of thing, but it is the easiest from a beginner's standpoint. Makes things a bit less complicated, so you haven't got to think about doing more than one thing at a time. Although let's just focus on getting to the Mun first, then we'll faff around getting our course sorted out so that we're going to be going over our target. So, as you can see, whilst I was waffling on just there, we are time warped down to our maneuver plan. Let's just do a last little bit of manual time warping to get ourselves to the point at which we need to execute the burn. Come on, game. There we go. Oop, I've overshot now. Great. And there goes our burn there. So we can open the map screen and just keep an eye on things. We don't need to follow this maneuver plan to the letter. Just as soon as you see us, just as soon as we see ourselves capture, that's when we can stop the burn. So we can just time warp a bit. Oh, nearly. Oh, that perfect. Great. The higher you are, the cheaper the plane change is going to be. So this is good. Next we're going to do is what I said basically. So we'll make a plane change like that. We can do adjustments with retrograde and prograde to put ourselves on a collision course, just make sure that we are, passing over that yellow spot, and we are great. And I'll make sure our periapsis is at a reasonable height. So where is that? 67. We can do lower than that, can't we? Let's get it to between 30 and 40. 37. Happy with that. Let's time warp. Hooray! Great. Oh, there we are. So we're 2 minutes away. Now's a good time to orient the ship so that we're pointing the right direction. Look at that for a view, by the way. We've got the... Let's just turn up the UI. We've got the Mun, Kerbin. Oh, it's like a Windows screenshot. Beautiful. It's a bit dark, actually. It's not great. Okay. So now we're pointing the right way. Let's just do some more time up till we can get to the point at which we need to do the burn. Oh, overshot. Doesn't really matter a great deal, though. Let's do the entire burn in map view, though. So ready? Here we go. Perfect. I actually overshot a little bit, but it's fine. Then we'll make another maneuver plan and do the circularization now. And again, you want to do that a little bit before periapsis actually to get it more circular. So let's see. That looks good. Periapsis of 45. Oh, sorry, apoapsis of 45. Periapsis 36. Not great. Let's see if we can get that bit more circular. Oh, is it going to let me drag it? Sometimes it can be a bit sort of glitchy when it comes to like letting you drag on the maneuver plan. 34, 38, 36. Yeah, that's fine. Now we can just time warp. Actually, going to make a quick save as well. Whoop, there we go. And point ourselves along the maneuver node vector. And then we can start thinking about getting down. Can we see it from here? Where is that site? Yes, it looks like it's over here somewhere. Interesting. I mean, if you've been following this channel, I have been to this location before, but... it was probably in the title and thumbnail. Maybe I don't know yet. I don't know what the title and thumbnail are going to be. Let's just time up a bit till we get to that maneuver plan. Ready, 3, 2, 1. There it goes. Oh, I see it, in fact. Look, there it is. That's what we're aiming for. So this is kind of a nice thing about the fact we're aiming for a specific location. It's not just a point on the map screen. It is actually something you can physically see. Obviously, we're not in a great location yet, so we can actually wait around a little bit until we're at a point at which our orbit is over the target. And in fact, I don't know if I did my inclination change strong enough. It doesn't look like we are actually going to be directly over it, but you know what? It's fine. Oh, kill. There we go. So this is why, yeah, you don't want to get too aggressive with physics time warp whilst you're doing your burns, because when I dropped down to 1 times, I pressed it to 1 times and then pressed X, but the game was still thinking about changing time warp levels. I couldn't do it right away. So pointing prograde now. Let's just get ourselves back onto a nice, more circular orbit. Ready? There we go. Okay, so now we need to be getting to this mysterious location here. Now, at the moment, we're not really, you see what I mean, our orbital line isn't really passing over it. So what I'm going to do now is go to the Kerbal Space Center. Well, I should clarify, we've not got much time warp available to us. Like, we can time warp, like, reasonably fast, but not that fast. So let's go to the Kerbal Space Center and unlock some more time warp levels. We'll go to the tracking station, and we will locate the Mun. There it is. We'll click focus. Now, a bit of a faint line. We can just about see our orbital line. We can time warp loads. There we are. And we'll just wait until our orbital line passes kind of over the yellow dot. Ideally kind of on the light side, just so that you guys can see what's going on. There we go. Oop. No, I'd say that's pretty good. Can we do one more pass? Oh, I've flown too close to the sun now. Is that or close to the Mun? I don't know. I should have. Oh, Liminette, guys. This is disastrous. Well, whatever. We can pretend that maybe you had some mistakes and now, whatever. Right. So we'll go back to control our ship. So we were at a point where our orbital line... Oh, what was that? We had a bit of a weird thing glitch happen there. So we were at a point where our orbital line was over the target, but then I got a bit carried away and now it's not so much. But not to worry. We can do a little bit of a normal burn just here. And that's going to cost us 43 Delta V. Oh, what a waste. Right, anyway, we can now push on prograde, or alternatively drag out on retrograde. There we go. Now we can line it up so our trajectory takes us to basically over that spot. But the issue is that the Mun is rotating. So it's rotating this way. So by the time we get there, the target will have moved. So we're actually going to place our trajectory ahead of the target. I want this little crash indication to be roughly at the same level. Actually, that looks pretty good. What I might do actually is just extend this a little bit, just because we want a nice sort of runoff to kill all of our velocity off. So I think that looks good. Let's time warp to our maneuver plan. And yeah, get ready. Oh, hang on. What's happened? I've encountered a bug! Okay, so what we're going to do, side tutorial, we'll make a quick save and a quick load and see if that fixes it. Aha, that fixed it. We'll make a quick save now just in case. We will now continue the tutorial. Oh, right, we're close by, aren't we? Right, good. So let's point towards our maneuver plan and get ready to execute the burn. So it's 11 seconds away. We can use a bit of manual time warp to kill off all of our inertia, although actually we didn't really have that much anyway. And then we can execute. Yep, great, perfect. And then we can go back to the map screen and take a look at what's happening. Because, you know, the maneuver plan isn't always completely representative of what the burn will eventually do to your trajectory. Sometimes there can be discrepancies. Although it's a pretty small burn, so hopefully it should have been fairly accurate. Oh, there we are. You see, minor difference, right? Okay, now let's make another quick save and point retrograde. I'm also going to press the orbit button on the nav ball to change it to surface mode. Now we have the blue ocean and the brown/orange ground. I see it as orange, but people say it's brown and then they get cross with me, so apologies. It doesn't really matter, so let's all just live our lives. Now let's just time warp and to the point where we're sort of near to the target. What we can do to help ourselves out is create a maneuver plan, and that tells us we're 7 minutes away. So let's just time warp till we're about, I don't know, 2 minutes sounds good. Then we might even have some visual on it. So let's now we're 2 minutes away. Let's start killing off our velocity in preparation for our landing. So we're going to point retrograde, but we're going to turn off auto SAS. We're going to point basically along the line between the blue and the orange, because this is going to focus on just killing off our horizontal velocity. And then we can kind of manipulate this. We need to be coming a little bit more this way, don't we? So if we turn this way a little bit. Oop, wrong way, wrong way, wrong way. My bad. I forgot we're retrograde, aren't we? Yeah, so there we go. See, I can sort of steer. So now I'm pointing a bit 180. I'm steering us. We're coming in over it. Oh, look at that. Now, this is a not very efficient, but that's why we brought lots of fuel. Like, we've still got a whole blooming stage available to us. So, we shouldn't even have to worry too much about fuel efficiency for this mission. That's why I kind of built an over-engineered rocket to give you lots of fuel, basically, to play around with. And, there. Now, what we could even do is create a custom quick save, saying, I don't know, coming in hot. Perfect. And then we can continue. So, what's our speed relative to the ground? So, we're coming in quite fast. When should we start doing our retrograde burn? Let's see. Maybe like here. I think looks good. So, we probably have visual on the target at this point as well. Oops. So again, just focusing on our horizontal speed initially. And we can do, now we've got visual, we can actually do a bit more manual steering. That looks good. Ooh. Put ourselves back on a retrograde vector. Now I think we can just focus on killing all of our velocity. There is the Mun signal. In fact, actually, we are going to be overshooting it, aren't we? So let's go back to just focusing on horizontal speed, because we want to stop slowing down in this direction. Or we want to start slowing down more in that direction. And we can do a bit more steering like this. Perfect. Back to retrograde. I think at this point, I've got way more delta V than I need. So let's just kill the engine quickly. Stage. And stage again to activate the engine. And we're coming in pretty slow, actually, now. So that's good. Now, shall we attempt to land on top of this mysterious structure? So again, I'm just doing some like steering. Very inefficient, but hey, it's more fun. We've got way more delta V than we need in this stage. I guess this video isn't so much a tutorial, more just a watch me play Kerbal Space Program. But it's like live commentary, right? So it's somewhat different to my normal thing. I think we're going to be struggling. Let's just deploy our landing gear very optimistically with G. And I don't know, maybe that looks pretty good, actually. So let's point retrograde and slow down our descent. Oh, look at this. This is looking very promising, guys. Oh, we can actually delete this maneuver node, can't we? So, I think we've got to commit, haven't we, to landing on top. So, we're going to eyeball this. This skill, at least for me, took me a while to master. So don't worry if it's a bit harder for you to fly by looking at the screen, because the controls aren't particularly intuitive, because you're controlling the nav ball ultimately, not the rocket. But guys might not know this, but I've got quite a few hours in this game at this point, so I'm used to it. But I'm going to make a quick save just in case. Oh, there we are. We aren't quite lined up, are we? Oh, I tell you what, let's kill off all of our speed, so then we can make some further adjustments. So there we are. 3 meters per second, right. So what do we need to do now? We need to point a bit more this way, don't we? Oh. Oh, and then retrograde, retrograde. Quick, spin faster. Oh, this is beautiful. I might have been too accurate here, guys. We're landing on the not smooth bit. Could it be a disaster? Ooh, I touched down a little bit fast just there. Let's just hover across a little bit. We want to be landing on the arch bit of this mysterious thing. Oh no, too much horizontal velocity. It's a disaster. It's fine. We can basically, when we want to take off, we can just sort of roll this thing off the edge and orient ourselves down. So yeah, maybe if you're using this as a tutorial, don't be stupid like me. Land next to this arch. But what an archway, eh? Let's take a look. I mean, I've been to this arch a couple of times on this channel, so for me this isn't new. But hey, isn't this cool? We got to plant our flag, and there's only one place I think we can plant our flag, isn't there? We will pilot our way up to the crest of this archway, which has lights representing all the celestial bodies in the Kerbin system, including Kerbin itself. Arch. There. I can't think of a better name than that. Look at that. Brilliant. We'll take a little screenshot. And there we are. Landed at this mysterious site. Although Tim C. Kerbin doesn't seem particularly interested. Let's make a nice custom quick save. Flag planted. Perfect. And let's not dilly-dally. Let's get some science. We can actually take a surface sample from... Can he get that tested? Tim C. Kerbin is very strong. Look at that. Manages to run that through solid brass. Comment below what you think this archway is made of. But yep, we got our surface survey. Great. I think that's everything right. What's happening? Oh, sorry. I was doing a crew observation. There we go. Right. Now we've done all that. Let's let's not try and fall off. Let's use the jetpack. Yes, I know it's not a jetpack. It's an EVA pack. Same thing. I know it's not the same. Leave me alone. Right. Can we get back in the ship? There we go. And let's make sure to run our Science Junior as well. And look at that. It's actually, the monument is its own environment, which is pretty cool. Now, I wonder if the ground next to the archway is also part of the monument environment or if it's something else. There's only one way to find out, isn't there? Let's perform a very safe maneuver. Oh, deploy the landing gear, point retrograde. It was all fine. It was all fine. And then, yeah, fire the engine. Hopefully not land on a rock. Why's my camera so weird? There we go. Perfect. Now, it looks like we're still at the monument. So if we wanted to, we could just walk a little bit and grab some science from the surrounding area. But we've already got science from our Mun Marry anyway. And to be honest, don't want to make this video overly complex. So I suppose that's everything we needed to do here, wasn't it? So let's go back. So we're going to point upwards and then go immediately 90 degrees on the nav ball. Try and avoid slamming into the archway if we can. There we are. We can retract our landing gear. And I'm basically just going to point flat, making sure our time to apoapsis, is increasing. There we are. We've got a pretty good thrust weight ratio though. So just making sure this number doesn't go down. So it's 3 at the moment. As long as it says 3 or greater, also says 2. So we're going to point a little bit more aggressively now. There we are. Now it's climbing. Then we'll go back to pointing prograde again. And then I think we're pretty much safe at this point. Yep, it's increasing. So let's just point prograde now and cruise on up to orbit. What a nice, beautiful view of the surface of the Mun just here. So we're watching our apoapsis number. I'll wait for that to be about 30k, and then we should be safe at that point. Hopefully we don't slam into the side of this big crater. But, you know, well, here we go. So it's now rapidly rising 39. Whatever, I'm happy with that. Let's, oh no, we've had another glitch. Our orbital line has disappeared. So this is slightly more complicated to fix than the one we had earlier. Let's just try quick saving, quick loading, see if that fixes it. No. Oh dear. Oh, and the rocket has come apart slightly. This is not good. We'll make another quick save and a quick load just in case. Yes, let's have a look now. It's very frustrating. I've just seen our wrap-ups. This is really low. Let's get that back up to 30k. Pointing prograde. Go for it. There we are. Once your power-ups disappears, it rises really quickly. So let's go 35k. We'll make a quick save again. Now, I did edit something out of this video, guys, in that I've already done this bit where I've like traveled out of the Mari and across these mountains. I noticed the experiment thing started flashing. So I'm like, great, let's run experiments from above this biome. But if you look carefully, it says, Mun landed Highlands. The game thinks we've landed. So if you run the experiments now, we'll get kind of more science points than we would if we were in orbit, which is our actual true location. And this is why our orbital line has disappeared. It's because the game thinks that we've landed. We can fix this, but it's a bit of a faff, unfortunately. So we'll get as far as we can just on instruments, all right? So we'll time warp to the point at which we reach apoapsis, and then we'll perform a prograde burn to circularize. And we can get all of that from this little data orbital information screen here. We don't need the map screen for this, so we'll just carry on time warping. It's a bit slow, unfortunately, because we've only got 3 levels of time warp available to us. I'll just speed the footage up in post, so you guys don't have to endure all of this. I'm talking still in the past now for you guys, so I'll transition now to this next part where my commentary will take over again. And I'm taking over again. Hopefully I time warped that okay in post. We can just increase our time warp speed now. We want to be really careful not to overshoot apoapsis though. Should I risk doing one more level? Here we go. Max time warp now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now we're going to drop down. And then once we're kind of approaching, just sort of like spam the time warp keys. Okay, there we are. Make sure we're pointing prograde. Oh no, it's race against time now. Make another quick save just in case. Then we'll burn and we'll watch our power-ups marker till they're about the same. So there we are, 30, 35, 37. Let's just do one more last ditch. Well, actually, let's get to the daylight side of the planet so we can actually see what's happening. Daylight side of the moon, I should say. Apologies. There we are. Beautiful Kerbin rise. Let's do one more quick save and a quick load. See what happens. It set our thing to orbital, but no, we're still. And yeah, look, Mun landed mare. Bit of a shame that. Oh well. So what we can do is we'll make a quick save now, and we'll call it something like fix orbit line. Save. Now we will. On second thought, actually, I'm going to put a link to a tutorial so you can fix this yourself in the description of this video. But what I could do, I'm going to use this opportunity to show you how to get back to Kerbin from the Mun without being able to use the map screen. So we're going to get to basically this point, so where the forward line is on the Mun's orbit. Time warp to there, so that's great. Then we're going to burn prograde. So ready? Oh, our rocket is also falling apart. The Kraken doesn't like us clearly. So we're going to wait for our apoapsis to become a negative number. That indicates that we have escaped from the Mun's sphere of influence. So wait for it. Oh, sorry, my bad. Keep burning. There we go. So it looks like we are leaving the Mun's sphere of influence. There we are. Did I say apoapsis is going to be a negative number, by the way? I misspoke there. We can wait until this concentric circle appears, though. That indicates that we are on an escape trajectory from the Mun. So we will now just time warp until we leave the Mun's sphere of influence. Now, at this point, we've changed the celestial body that we're orbiting. Maybe if we do a quick save and a quick load now, at the very least, we can try and see if we can fix that weird visual glitch that's just happened where parts of the rocket are outside of the rocket. Okay, so that's fixed. Is the line back? No, that's a shame. But it's okay. We've got enough delta V to get back. We've got loads to get back, in fact. And now we're going to point retrograde, all right? And then we will burn. Now we're basically going to wait for our periapsis to intersect Kerbin's atmosphere. So any value lower than 70 kilometers. Ideally, well below 70 kilometers. If it's only just below 70 kilometers, we won't be able to get enough air resistance to, re-enter permanently. So let's go for 30. It's been a recurring number, hasn't it, in this video? So that looks good. We'll make one more quick save, and then we'll just time warp down. Now, I'm not doing any more experiments. As you can see, these are landed experiments. So again, if this happens to you, you could now just cheese a bunch of extra science. Hey, the game broke and made things harder for you. Why not take advantage of that? So I like doing what I call danger staging, which where we stage at the very last second when we re-enter, but I'm not going to stage the parachute just yet. And there we are. Now don't worry about taking science from the Science Junior like you had to in KSP 1. It's automatically transferred in KSP 2. As you can see, I can't really open the research panel because I'll end up running experiments. But you know what? It's fine. I mean, at this point, it's a very low amount of science because it's like, 4. But there we are. See, we still have all of our samples and everything. So we're coming in hot. Now, our nav board has automatically switched to surface mode. We've got max time warp just here. We're just going to wait until the flames of re-entry disappear. And now that has taken place, we'll wait for our surface speed to get a little bit lower before we deploy the parachute. This game does have a bit of a habit sometimes of breaking parachutes when you're going too fast. So that looks good enough. Let's stage for the final time. Make another cheeky quick save. And then we can just time warp again as we descend down to the surface. Now just before deployment, I like to just drop down to normal time warp again, just to make sure that we don't have any glitches happen when the parachute opens. And now it is fully open. Look at that for a view. Beautiful. We can descend down to splashdown. And so there you have it. Nothing left to do now other than not revert, but to recover the vessel. Confirm. Go back to the KSC now. And first things first, let's go to mission control and hand in our Munar signal mission. Director, you're back! My goodness! We can't believe what you found. If we didn't have any visuals, we'd have thought it was a prank. Did you notice the bronze filigree of the arch? I swear I was looking at that exact shade to tile my bathroom. Sorry, Scottish people, for the incredibly terrible impression of the accent. Did you also notice the crystal spheres on the arch? At first I thought, wow, that's a bit gaudy, but then I realised there's a pattern. Did you notice how bright the crystal at the centre is? Like a certain sun that you shouldn't stare directly into, and the 7 crystals that surround it. Guess how many celestial bodies are? Okay, we already know all this. Good, good, good. What could this be? We're theorizing what it could be. Maybe it's a message, or a little ominous cutscene type thing. Thanks, science. So, let's go to R&D and see if we can unlock anything. So we've been kind of building, let's go to tier 2. We've been kind of building like spindly little rockets at this point, right, with the small parts. It'd be nice to start building some bigger stuff. So medium launch systems will give us some bigger parts to, build stuff with. It'd be nice if we can get some larger landing legs as well to support bigger landers. So where would that be? Landing utilities? Heavy landings? Oh, so it's all the way over there. So maybe not within the scope of this particular set of unlocking. But we need to unlock expanded construction to get there. So let's just unlock that one. And then can we get any further? No, we've got 175 science left. Oof, science doesn't get you very far this level of the tech tree, does it? So let's go to mission control and see what we have next. Wheeling and dealing. Launch a vessel with at least 4 wheels. Well, that's a easy one to do. Sorry to interrupt a live match just there, but it turns out wheeling and dealing is not a very easy contract to fulfill. Here I am launching a vessel with what I would consider to have 4 wheels, and we didn't get the contract unlocked, unfortunately. In fact, the other wheels I had, the other retractable landing gear, also didn't fulfill the contract. I think you need to use rover wheels, which we don't have available at this point in the tech tree. And on that terrible disappointment, it is the end of the video. So I'll leave you with this ridiculous rocket when I was attempting to unlock the wheeling and dealing contract with the retractable landing gear. Also, my Patrons and YouTube channel members are scrolling on the left there, and they make all of this content possible. So massive thank you to them for your continued support. And that's it. Like I say, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you in the next one.